Feeling like you just can't go any farther? Then all you have to do is walk through this doorway. Given that Ponferrada is a fairly large town, it will take us a few minutes to return to the countryside. From the Knights Templar Castle, we turn up the road and admire the 12th century Colossus one more time. The arrows then lead us through the narrow downtown streets. We cross the Rio Sil over a bridge that's rather utilitarian compared to the fancy ones we've seen so far. After a few minutes of city walking, we enter the Parque de la Concordia, which takes us away from most of the traffic and noise. And we see how some of the locals spend their mornings. This brings us to La Fábrica de Luz and the Museo de la Energía, or Light Factory and Energy Museum, which occupies a decommissioned coal-fired power plant. From here, we stroll through a suburb called Compostilla, and then this unassuming portal named Paseo Camino de Santiago. In a moment, the houses now get bigger and fancier. This is not your typical old-world village on the Camino. We've now gone about 3.6 kilometers, and the town is slowly disappearing. After going through this artful underpass, we reach Colombrianas, where there's one last gasp of urban landscape. Then, after passing the Ermita San Blas y San Roque, we finally exit the municipality and begin walking along Calle San Blas, and going past what appear to be small farms. As always, watch for the Camino dogs. About 8 kilometers since we left this morning, we enter Fuentes Nuevas, a town of 2,700 that began in the Middle Ages. That's not so unusual, but I thought I'd mention it. The place has its charming moments. Once past the village, we head through more fields, and after 2 kilometers come to Campo Nuraya. It's a busy place, but with the conveniences we hope for along the road, but seldom find in most of the villages.
Wait for your notes. I'm rich.
How much did you take out?
100.
Okay.
And unlike those villages, which so often seem deserted, we have a little people watching along the way. After passing this wine co-op, we find this fountain and a shaded picnic area. A few minutes later, we cross Highway A6, where the Camino climbs a small, sunny hill where an umbrella comes in handy. The route then works its way through a picturesque landscape of vineyards and chestnut tree groves. As always, the distance markers are frequent, and for some, not quite encouraging. Eventually, we cross Highway LE 713, and after this stop for water, land at Cacabelos, where a lot of the grapes we passed end up for wine production. By the way, we've gone 16.5 kilometers so far, with 8 more to go. Onward out of the town, and a long, gradual climb along the highway for 2.5 kilometers to tiny Pierros. After a few minutes of walking, we turn off the highway for more vineyards along this undulating gravel road. Our next point of interest is Valtui de Arriba, where we're eyeballed by the local Camino dogs. More rolling hills and more grapes. Finally, we come to Villafranca del Bierzo. Here we can continue into town and up to the Iglesia de Santiago. I'm standing at the Puerto del Pordón. Here, if you were a pilgrim unable to continue to Santiago, and let's face it, in those days there were plenty of various ailments to slow you down, you could call it quits by just walking through this door. By doing so, you would have been judged to have completed your obligations as a pilgrim, and the rewards of your sins being absolved or less time in purgatory were yours. Of course, in those days, you still had to turn around and walk back home. And if you were too sick to continue to Santiago, you probably weren't getting home either. Although a relatively small town, Villafranca offers 7 albergues and 11 hotels. Beds, they've got. Elevators, maybe not.